The void between stars erupted in fire as the UES Endeavour's shields buckled under another barrage from the Creveri dreadnought. Admiral Sarah Chen braced herself against the command console, her weathered features illuminated by the cascade of warning lights across the bridge. "Status report," she demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding her. "Hull integrity at 28%. Lieutenant Park responded, fingers dancing across his console. "Civilian transport still needs 7 minutes to clear the gravity well. We won't last that long under this fire, Admiral." Chen nodded, studying the tactical display. The massive form of the Creveri flagship, Shadow of Dawn, loomed before them, a testament to the Empire's technological superiority. Its crystalline hull seemed to absorb light itself, broken only by the pulsing of weapon ports along its length. 5 years of war had taught humanity much about their adversaries, but not enough. Never enough. "Route emergency power to forward shields," Chen ordered, "and get me a channel to all ships." The communication officer's hands trembled slightly as she complied. "Channel open, Admiral." Chen took a deep breath, her dark eyes fixed on the enemy vessel. "This is Admiral Chen to all UES vessels. The civilians of New Eden are counting on us. Every second we hold this line is another family that escapes the fate of Titan colony. Remember your oaths. Remember Earth." Chen out. The bridge crew straightened at her words, the memory of Titan's destruction still fresh in their minds. 3 million civilians transformed to ash when the Creveri decided to make an example of humanity's resistance. It wouldn't happen again. Not while they drew breath. The Endeavour shuddered as another volley struck home. Through the view screen, Chen watched 2 of her escort frigates move to intercept a wing of Creveri's strike craft. The smaller human vessels fought with desperate courage, their point defense systems creating a web of interceptor fire. But for each Creveri fighter they destroyed, another took its place. "Admiral," Lieutenant Park called out, detecting energy spike from the Shadow of Dawn. "They're charging their main cannon." Chen's mind raced through options, each worse than the last. The Creveri flagship's primary weapon could vaporize a capital ship with a single shot. They'd seen it happen at Proxima Centauri, at Wolf 359, at a dozen other battles where humanity learned the true cost of defiance. "How many civilian ships still in range?" she asked. 17 transports, Admiral. Estimated 3,000 souls aboard each. 51,000 lives. Chen thought of her son David, serving on a destroyer halfway across human space, of the message she'd recorded for him just that morning, knowing it might be her last, of the oath she'd taken 30 years ago to protect humanity, no matter the cost. "All power to engines," she commanded. "Plot an intercept course with their flagship." The bridge, "It's been an honor," she said to her crew. Then, quieter, "Give them hell, David." The Endeavour's bow crumpled as it struck the Creveri flagship's shields. For a moment, the barrier held, energy crackling between the 2 vessels. Then Chen's hand found the reactor override, and the universe turned white. The Shadow of Dawn's shields collapsed under the point-blank detonation. As Chen had predicted, the remaining human vessels seized their chance, concentrating their fire on the suddenly vulnerable flagship. The pride of the Creveri fleet began to break apart under the barrage, secondary explosions chaining through its crystalline structure. But Admiral Sarah Chen didn't see her final victory. Like thousands of human officers before her, she had given everything to protect her people. Her sacrifice would become legend, a rallying cry for the resistance to come. But more importantly, 51,000 civilians escaped to safety that day, carrying with them the seeds of humanity's eventual triumph. The war was far from over. But in the light of a dying star, humanity had proven once again that they would never submit, never surrender, no matter the odds. The Creveri Empire had killed Admiral Chen, but in doing so, they had created something far more dangerous, a symbol of hope. 6 months after Admiral Chen's sacrifice, Dr. Marcus Webb stood in his hidden laboratory deep beneath the ruins of Sydney, studying the holographic display before him. The captured Creveri tissue sample floated in the stasis field, its crystalline cellular structure refracting light in impossible patterns. "Run the simulation again," he instructed the lab's eye. "Focus on the photoreceptor response to frequency modulation." The simulation played out, showing cascading reactions through the alien cells. Webb leaned forward, his tired eyes narrowing. 5 years of studying the Creveri had taught humanity much about their physical superiority, their crystalline biology that made them nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons, their ability to process information at speeds that made their combat reflexes seemingly precognitive. But every species had its weaknesses. Webb had devoted his life to finding the Creveris. A soft chime announced a visitor. Webb quickly activated the lab's camouflage protocols before checking the security feed. He relaxed slightly when he recognized Commander Elena Torres, one of the few military officers cleared to know about his research. "Any progress?" Torres asked as she entered, her resistance uniform bearing the dust of Sydney's surface ruins. Her dark eyes carried the haunted look common to survivors of Creveri occupation. Webb gestured to the hologram. "Maybe. Their cellular structure is remarkable. The crystalline matrix allows for nearly perfect energy transmission throughout their bodies. It's what makes them so hard to kill. But look here." He highlighted a section of the simulation. "Their sensory processing is completely dependent on that same system." Torres frowned. "Meaning what exactly?" "Meaning we might be able to overload it. The right frequency of electromagnetic pulse wouldn't just blind them. It would cascade through their entire nervous system." Webb ran his fingers through his graying hair. "We'd need to modulate the pulse precisely, but in theory, we could incapacitate them without needing to penetrate their natural armor." Torres finished. Her expression hardened. "How long to develop a working prototype?" Webb began calculating resource requirements. "With the equipment we have here, 2 months, minimum. And we'd need live subjects to test it. The tissue samples can only tell us so much." Torres nodded grimly. "I'll contact our cells in the labor camps. The Creveri use overseers there. Smaller numbers, lighter security." She paused. "This could change everything, Marcus." "It has to," Webb replied softly. "We're losing this war. The Creveri don't just want to defeat us. They want to erase us. Make humanity an object lesson for any other species that might resist their expansion." He thought of the reports from occupied territories, the systematic destruction of human culture, the forced labor camps, the processing centers, where humans were studied like lab rats, the Creveri trying to understand how such an inferior species had spread so far among the stars. Torres touched the resistance patch on her shoulder, a phoenix rising from Earth's silhouette. "Chen showed us they're not invincible. If your research pans out, they'll never see it coming." Webb finished. He turned back to his work, determination burning in his chest. "Get me those test subjects. I'll have something ready." Over the next weeks, Webb's lab became a hive of activity. Resistance fighters smuggled in equipment and materials, while coded transmissions from cells across Earth coordinated their efforts. The loss of Admiral Chen had struck a deep blow to humanity's military resistance, but it had also sparked something new: unity. Where once resistance cells had operated independently, now they worked together, sharing resources and intelligence. Chen's sacrifice had reminded them what they were fighting for: not just survival, but the right to determine their own destiny among the stars. Webb worked tirelessly, testing and refining his designs. The breakthrough came during the 3rd week, when he finally isolated the exact frequency that could disrupt Creveri neural pathways without harming human tissue. The prototype weapon wasn't elegant, a bulky device that looked more like mining equipment than a military tool, but in tests on tissue samples, it worked. Torres returned to the lab exactly 2 months after their initial conversation. She wasn't alone. "We got you your test subject," she announced as her team dragged in an unconscious Creveri overseer. The alien's crystalline skin caught the lab's lights, sending rainbow refractions across the walls. Ambush their patrol near the Eastern Labor Complex. We have maybe 6 hours before they notice it's missing. Webb was already calibrating his device. That's all we need. Secure it to the testing frame. And everyone put on the shielding gear. We don't know if there'll be feedback. The Creveri began to regain consciousness as they secured it. Its multifaceted eyes flickered open, taking in the lab with the accelerated perception characteristic of its species. Webb could see the moment it processed its situation, the slight shift in its crystalline structure that indicated muscle tension. Barbaric creatures, it said in the clicking language their translation software had only recently begun to decode. You think your primitive restraints can hold me? Webb met its gaze steadily. No, but this might. He activated the device. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Creveri's entire body seized, its crystalline structure resonating with the targeted pulse. The alien's scream was like breaking glass, its enhanced senses transformed into a weapon against itself as the cascading overload tore through its neural pathways. Webb cut power after exactly 30 seconds. The Creveri hung limply in its restraints, its previously luminescent skin now dull and clouded. Is it dead? Torres asked. Unconscious, Webb replied, checking his readings. Complete neural shutdown, but the effect appears temporary. Give it a few hours, and it should recover. He looked up at Torres, allowing himself a small smile. It worked. We can mass-produce these with the fabrication facilities in the old mining complexes, modify them to fit different delivery systems. Torres was already on her secure communicator, contacting resistance leadership. How many can you have ready in 2 weeks? Enough to arm every major cell on the continent. Webb began compiling his test data. Why? Because that's when we launch Operation Blindside. Torres's eyes gleamed with fierce hope. The Creveri think Chen's death broke us. Time to show them how wrong they are. As Webb watched his team begin dismantling the prototype for reproduction, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For 5 years, humanity had been fighting a defensive war, merely trying to survive. Now, finally, they had a way to strike back. He glanced at the small holo of Admiral Chen that someone had placed on the lab's memorial wall. We found their weakness, he whispered. Now we'll make them pay for every life they've taken. The Creveri Empire had thought humanity's greatest strength was its technology, its ships, its weapons. They were about to learn what humans had known for millennia. True power lay in the ability to adapt, to find the flaw in any defense, to never stop fighting no matter how hopeless the odds seemed. The resistance was about to teach them the true meaning of fear. Commander Maya Santos crouched in the shadows of New Shanghai's ruins, watching Creveri patrols march past her position. Their crystalline forms caught the light of the setting sun, creating prismatic patterns across the rubble-strewn street. 6 of them, moving with the artificial precision their species was known for. Each one a nearly invincible killing machine, or so they believed. All teams in position, her comm officer whispered, waiting for your signal. Santos checked the modified neural disruptors strapped to her forearm. Dr. Webb's invention had been streamlined in the past month, transformed from a bulky prototype into a sleek weapon of war. Every resistance fighter in her command carried one. Operation Blindside was about to show the Creveri exactly what humanity could do with their newfound advantage. Execute, she breathed into her comm. The attack began with perfect synchronization. Neural disruptors activated simultaneously across the sector, their carefully tuned frequencies combining into a devastating wave. The effect on the Creveri patrol was immediate and spectacular. The aliens dropped like puppets with cut strings, their crystalline bodies resonating with the disruptive field. No armor, no shields, no defense against a weapon that turned their greatest strength into a crippling weakness. Santos was already moving, her team emerging from concealment to secure the incapacitated enemies. Central Control, Blade 1, she transmitted. Phase 1 complete. Moving to secondary objectives. Similar reports flooded in from across the city. Decades of Creveri occupation had taught them arrogance, made them believe their technological superiority made them invulnerable. They had grown lazy, complacent. That complacency was about to cost them dearly. Santos led her team through the city's underground transit tunnels, following paths mapped out by years of resistance surveillance. Above them, chaos erupted as more Creveri patrols fell to precisely coordinated ambushes. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, it would be too late. Their primary target loomed ahead, the Creveri Command Center, a crystalline spire that had once been Shanghai's tallest skyscraper. The aliens had transformed it into a symbol of their dominance, its transparent walls refracting sunlight across the conquered city. Now it would become a symbol of their vulnerability. Remember, Santos addressed her team as they prepared to breach the building's lower levels. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we don't give them time to adapt. The neural disruptors won't surprise them forever. Make every shot count. The assault was methodical and ruthless. Level by level, Santos' forces swept upward through the building. The neural disruptors proved devastatingly effective in the enclosed spaces, their overlapping fields leaving no refuge for the defending Creveri. Resistance fighters, hardened by years of guerrilla warfare, secured each floor with practiced efficiency. Commander, her tactical officer called out as they reached the upper levels. Multiple dropships approaching. Creveri reinforcements. Santos smiled grimly. Right on schedule. Signal the air teams. Outside, concealed surface-to-air batteries revealed themselves, their weapons modified with Webb's technology. The approaching Creveri vessels suddenly found their pilots incapacitated, crystalline nervous systems overloaded by the precisely tuned frequencies. Ships crashed or veered off course. The aliens' supposedly superior reflexes turned against them. Command center secured, Santos announced an hour later, standing in what had once been the Creveri governor's office. All primary objectives accomplished. Casualties minimal, her XO reported. They never had a chance to mount an effective defense. Neural disruptors exceeded all expectations. Santos nodded, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. Similar reports were coming in from resistance cells across Earth and the occupied colonies. Operation Blindside was living up to its name, catching the Creveri completely unprepared for this new method of warfare. But she knew better than to celebrate too early. Begin data extraction from their systems. I want everything. Troop deployments, fleet movements, communication protocols. The Creveri will adapt to the neural disruptors eventually. We need to press our advantage while we have it. The next weeks saw a dramatic shift in the war's momentum. Humanity, armed with Webb's invention and driven by a newfound sense of unity, struck at Creveri holdings across settled space. Santos's successful operation in Shanghai became a template, repeated with variations on a dozen worlds. The aliens' response was predictable. They launched massive retaliatory strikes, trying to overwhelm resistance forces through sheer numbers. But their tactics, evolved for fighting conventional wars against conventional enemies, proved inadequate against humanity's guerrilla campaign. Santos stood in the command center's observation room, watching the sun rise over a liberated Shanghai. Reports from the front continued to stream in. Another Creveri garrison fallen on Mars. Supply lines disrupted in the Alpha Centauri system. A prison camp liberation on Titan successful. Thousands of human captives freed. They're falling back to their core systems, her intelligence officer reported, abandoning outlying territories to consolidate their forces. But there's something else. He hesitated. We're picking up encrypted transmissions between their ships. Different frequencies, patterns we've never seen before. Some kind of internal communication. Santos frowned. The Creveri were many things, but stupid wasn't one of them. They would be developing countermeasures to the neural disruptors, looking for ways to shield their troops. And these mysterious transmissions suggested something more was brewing. Keep monitoring those signals, she ordered. And get me a secure line to Dr. Webb. We need to start working on the next generation of disruptors before the Creveri figure out how to block these ones. As she turned back to the window, Santos thought about how far they'd come since Admiral Chen's sacrifice. The Admiral had shown them the Creveri could be hurt. Webb had given them the tools to do it. And now, finally, humanity was pushing back. But in her gut, Santos knew this was just the beginning. The Creveri Empire had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They wouldn't accept defeat easily. The next phase of the war would be even more brutal, as humanity's ancient enemies brought their full might to bear. She touched the resistance patch on her shoulder, the phoenix rising from Earth's silhouette. They would be ready. The human spirit, once awakened, could not be suppressed. The Creveri were about to learn that lesson, no matter the cost. Supreme Scholar Anxtil moved silently through the crystalline corridors of the Imperial Archives, her form shimmering with the subtle iridescence of the scholar caste. Around her, massive data crystals pulsed with the accumulated knowledge of the Creveri Empire, but her attention was focused on a secure terminal tucked away in a forgotten corner. The encrypted transmission she'd intercepted from the human resistance forces had confirmed her worst fears. The Empire's military response to their recent defeats would devastate dozens of worlds, both human and Creveri. The Imperial leadership's obsession with maintaining control would doom millions. "You're taking an enormous risk, Supreme Scholar," a voice whispered. Anxtil turned to find General Voss materializing from the shadows, his military-cased crystals a deeper, more angular pattern than her own. "The Empire is taking a greater one," she replied. "The humans have proven more adaptable than anyone predicted. This escalation will only push them to greater extremes." Voss moved closer, his crystalline features catching the ambient light. "The Imperator's new weapons will make the neural disruptors irrelevant. The humans will be exterminated." "And then what?" Anxtil challenged. "We continue expanding, crushing every species that shows a spark of independence. The Empire has lost its way, Voss. We were meant to be guardians of order, not genocidal tyrants." The general was silent for a long moment. "You're not alone in that opinion," he finally said. "Many in the military caste have grown, concerned with the Imperator's decisions. The scholarly caste as well, I assume." Anxtil's crystalline structure shifted in the equivalent of a grim smile. "Why do you think I'm here?" "The data crystals contain proof of how far we've strayed from our founding principles. The Empire's first contact protocols specifically forbade the extinction of sapient species. The humans would never trust us," Voss pointed out. "Perhaps not, but they might trust our actions." Anxtil interfaced with the terminal, bringing up classified military data. "The Imperator plans to use the world-breaker weapons on every major human settlement. Billions will die, including millions of our own people living in those systems." Voss's structure darkened with shock. "That's madness. The environmental damage alone would make those systems uninhabitable for centuries." "Exactly. The Imperator no longer cares about preservation or order, only dominance." Anxtil disconnected from the terminal. "I have contacts among the resistance. They're willing to meet." Before Voss could respond, alarms blared throughout the archive. Security forces would be converging on their position within minutes. "It seems," Voss said dryly, "the decision has been made for us." The next hours passed in a blur of rushed escapes and encrypted transmissions. By the time Anxtil's small ship emerged from hyperspace at the designated coordinates, nearly 30 other vessels had joined them. Creveri of various castes, who could no longer stomach the Empire's descent into tyranny. The human ships were waiting for them, weapons armed but not targeting. A tense voice came over the comm. "This is Commander Santos of the Earth Resistance. Supreme Scholar Anxtil. I believe we have matters to discuss." The meeting took place on a neutral station in unclaimed space. Santos arrived with Dr. Webb and a small security team, their neural disruptors prominently displayed. Anxtil and Voss represented the Creveri dissidents, along with representatives from the scientific and administrative castes. "Why should we trust you?" Santos asked bluntly after Anxtil finished presenting her evidence. Your people have been trying to exterminate us for years, because we're your only hope of preventing an even greater genocide, Anxtil replied. She interfaced with the station's holographic systems, displaying the technical specifications of the world-breaker weapons. The Imperator will deploy these within the month. Your neural disruptors won't stop them. Webb studied the specifications with growing horror. These would render entire systems uninhabitable. The cascading quantum reactions would spread beyond their intended targets. Anxtil finished. The Imperator either doesn't understand the full implications or doesn't care. Many of these systems have significant Crivery populations. Our own people will be sacrificed in the name of maintaining control. Santos exchanged looks with Webb. You're proposing an alliance. We're proposing survival, Voss interjected. The Imperator's actions threaten everyone, human, Crivery, and any other species that might emerge in the galaxy. Together, we might have a chance to stop this madness. Your technology combined with our knowledge of Imperial defenses, Anxtil added. Your adaptability paired with our understanding of Crivery systems. It's the only way. Santos was silent for a long moment, her hand unconsciously touching the resistance patch on her shoulder. Finally, she spoke. If we do this, it has to be a true partnership. No hidden agendas, no secret plans. We've seen too much death already. Agreed. Anxtil's crystalline structure pulsed with sincerity. My people have much to atone for. Let us begin by preventing an atrocity. The alliance was formalized within hours, though trust would take longer to build. As the combined fleet began preparations for their desperate mission, Anxtil found herself studying the humans more closely. Their adaptability, their determination, their willingness to fight against overwhelming odds. These were qualities the Empire had dismissed as primitive stubbornness. Now she understood the truth. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their ability to forgive, to look past centuries of warfare, and see the possibility of a better future. The Empire had tried to break their spirit, only to find it unbreakable. As her ship joined the growing fleet of human and Crivery vessels, Anxtil felt a sensation she hadn't experienced in centuries. Hope. The road ahead would be difficult, the casualties severe, but together they had a chance to forge something new from the ashes of conflict. The Imperator had built an empire on fear and domination. Now, a most unlikely alliance would show the galaxy a different path, one built on cooperation and understanding. The true test was about to begin.